dry and wet puppy food and dry and wet dog food, as well as blankets. They are coming out of pocket to make sure that these animals are loved and taken care of. So you can help. You don't have to foster, but you can. But what it would be helpful were any of the things that I just said, in addition to monetary donations. These things are being collected in bins in Holy Grounds Cafe downstairs. So you can help contribute and keep these animals safe and warm and loved until they get adopted. And in our next announcement, I know we've been saying for a little while that there's a special congregational meeting, and you might have been like, that's so far out. Okay, it's next week. So make sure that it is on your calendars, a special congregational meeting Sunday at 1:30. And see the slide, stay for a light lunch. So we got you covered. Can't say you're hungry, we got you. Next Sunday, 1:30. And our last announcement, as Natalie starts coming to the stage to sing, to bless us in song, this is really exciting. So this month, it was kind of BYOD, D was for dinner. But starting next week, our catered dinner is back. That's right, it deserves applause because we are starting off with a Persian feast. And if you don't know what that means, you'll have to come on Wednesday and find out what a Persian feast tastes like. So go for it.
You will not eat anywhere in this country for $10 as well as you're going to eat at 6 o'clock in our holy grounds. Come give it a shot because it's great community and an amazing food.
Absolutely. So you've got dinner, you've got meditation, rapping with the Rev. I mean, that's what you do in the middle of the week to get you going. So make sure that you are ready for that. But really make sure that you are ready for the beautiful voice of Natalie Goodwin. She is singing an original song written by our own Will Hodge. That's right. And if you love Will and Natalie, which I know you do because you kind of have to, Songfest, August 18th, mark your calendars for that. But right now, just get your hearts ready and open your minds to freedom to challenge.
In the beginning, we were nothing but stars. And the simple notion we could be alive. Then we came to be who we are. And every day we sit and wonder why. One foot falls, the other behind it. Each day we go in search of ourselves. Some days we become lost and are blinded and retreat into the comfort of our shells. And we're not wrong, we stand our ground. This is the life we ride until we figure it out. We take the path we choose to walk. Question all the signs along the way, with the freedom to challenge every day. We silently dream of a tomorrow where we can live in a time of peace. Despite all the anger and sorrow, everything is as it should be. And we're not wrong, we stand our ground. This is the life we ride until we figure it out. We take the path we choose to walk. Question all the signs along the way, with the freedom to challenge every day. Every day we change just a little, more and more look into take the path we choose to walk. Question all the signs along the way, with the freedom to challenge every day. We're not wrong, we stand our ground. This is the life we ride until we figure it out. We take the path we choose to walk. Question all the signs along the way, with the freedom to challenge every day. With the freedom to challenge. In the beginning we were nothing but stars, and it's so good to be alive.
Natalie Goodwin, Will Hodge. In the beginning, we're just stars, pure potentiality. And I love working with songwriters that I can come to them with a title for a talk and say, make something up. I swear I could go to Will Hodge and say, I'm going to be speaking about bologna sandwiches on Sunday. And in 2 hours, he'd have a song about bologna sandwiches that would make you cry, that would encapsulate the message. Thank you. And I also want to give credit, Will was scheduled to be the soloist today. And he got together with Natalie, and they worked on this song. And he is humble enough to go, she just kicks butt on this song. And she did. Natalie, where are you? Beautiful, beautiful job. Thank you. So I wonder if any of you are like me. Growing up, yet you were basically told, don't ever question authority. Never question authority. Never, ever, ever question authority. Anybody else have that experience? Do what you're told. Be quiet. Children are to be seen and not heard. Blindly accept. You know what? The church world, as we know it today, perpetuated that idea. Anybody been in the church where you're supposed to just sit there, be fed, and not ever question, not ever challenge? Stay stagnant, because you're comfortable in my comfort zone. In the comfort zone of religion, you are comfortable if you don't challenge, if you don't question, right? Well, we like to do just the opposite here at Unity North. We like to stir the pot and to make a little bit of good trouble as it is. We don't blindly accept what we've been fed. But as a child, I never learned that skill. I had to wait till my 50s to do that. As a child, I never questioned the ministers. I never questioned the Sunday school teachers. I never questioned the teachers at school. God forbid I ever questioned my parents or my grandparents who had beliefs that I really didn't resonate with. I didn't question anybody in a position of authority. And as such, I became totally fine with this answer to my questions. Because I said so. Together, because I said so. That's why. Anybody heard that? We heard it from our parents, our grandparents. We've heard it from the ministers of past in the church of origin. Just be quiet, sit there, and accept it, even if it doesn't feel right. Let the divine discontent be pushed down because you don't want to make any waves. You don't want to rock the boat. And that's a really quick way for evolution to stop on the planet. A really quick way for evolution to stop within you. Yes? Because I said so. A lot of religion and a lot of our American history. We've been talking about American history and freedoms throughout the course of July. This is the final talk in that series. But it's been built. It's been built on leadership that said, because I said so. Now sit down and shut up. But we have a nation where we can stand up, where we can be heard. But I want to make it more personal. Because I was taught that skill as a child, I never, ever learned the ability to challenge myself. You see, if I'm not learning and stretching my wings in order to challenge the status quo of an environment that needs to be changed, then I never change the status quo of the environment on my ear, the environment here. This is just really not working well today. Can you hear me okay? I'll just let it wobble around. I tell you, sometimes my thoughts wobble around. It's just an outward picturing of my inward thoughts. But the reality is I never learned the ability to question why I had thoughts. Why are they there? Where did they come from? When did I inherit them? When did I make them my own and just blindly accept them as my own? And are they still serving a purpose today? If you're not daily asking yourself if the thoughts and the belief systems you had yesterday are still serving you today, still of value today, you're in a place of stagnation. Questioning is essential. Questioning is important. And some of my colleagues don't like it. They wonder why I don't just teach Fillmore here all the time, or why we don't just talk about Jesus here all the time. Well, because somewhere along the line I realized that truth is universal. And it is found everywhere, and good is found everywhere. And I found that good by questioning, by challenging what I believed. It doesn't mean I threw anything out. It means I added to. The questions led me to an expanded consciousness. That's what life is, right? Consciousness. We're all about expanding the consciousness, and questions get us there. And questions really will interrupt and disrupt the status quo of because I said so. So I never learned why I had beliefs, why they were there, so I lived many years stagnant. Anybody else been there? The lost years of Richard. I'm more concerned about the lost years of Richard than I am the lost years of Jesus. A lot of years where I just was okay with being safe and feeling safe and not questioning anybody or anything, not the least of myself. It was a freedom that went completely unutilized. In a country where I'm free to do that, in a church, in a movement where I am free to do that, unutilized in church, in family, in school, and in my head and in my heart. Wasted freedom, wasted education, wasted possibility, wasted God. God chose to do business as you, and if there's a question on your heart and a challenge in the field of your mind, it's there for a divine purpose. It's a divine appointment. For God's sake, let it out. For God's sake, let it. For the sake of God in the world, for the peace and the harmony and the understanding, the divine ideas of God, let it out. But how you do it is vitally, vitally important. Today is the last, as I mentioned, in a 5-part series on freedom. We've celebrated the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of religion, the freedom to be, the freedom of expression. Today is the freedom to challenge. Or as it reads in the First Amendment to the Constitution, the right to petition the government for redress or for grievance. I'm sure you've all read it and you're familiar with that. And if you're not, go ahead and be familiar with it because it is essential, important to the blessing of being an American. But it's also germane to the Unity North environment. That Bill of Rights, so to speak, is what we call our bylaws. And they're not necessarily the most exciting thing, but I want you to know today that our bylaws in this church give you equal voice, give you equal power to the man standing right here. Sometimes that really frustrates me. And at the end of the day, I'm so grateful for that freedom. That freedom is a blessing. You have equal voice and equal power to our board of directors. They just work harder than you do. To the staff, that is assured by the tenets and the foundational principles of Unity North Atlanta. And it is important that we remember that. The freedom to challenge. I love the first service in this community. And if anybody likes to challenge me, go ahead and come to first service because they have permission to interrupt the minister, to put their hand up and say, I don't agree, or I have something to say about that. And that sometimes can be difficult and challenging as the minister, but sometimes it's the greatest blessing. So what's the difference between it being a challenge and being irritating and being a greatest blessing? Consciousness. Life is consciousness. The minister's consciousness, your consciousness, and that interaction and how we relate to each other will determine if growth happens or fight happens. Consciousness determines what kind of environment we are living in. The set of bylaws assures that in this community. Some use it, some don't. Have you noticed that? Some use that freedom and some don't, but that's what a democracy is. A democracy of a country, a democracy of a spiritual institution, I don't want to have a voice. I don't want to have a vote. Okay, that's fine. That's choice. Nobody's going to belabor you or beat you over the head because you're not using your vote, but you get to choose. The most powerful power on the planet is your ability to choose. And I'm challenging you to know that your ability to choose to challenge and to question is a portal through which growth can happen for you. Through information can happen. Through understanding can happen. I learned much later in my life the importance of these things. It took me a lot of years. I'm kind of a slow learner, if you haven't realized that at this point. It would have been really helpful in my 20s, in my 30s, in my 40s to understand that challenge and question was a responsibility that I had, not just something that I could do, not just a right, but something I needed to initiate. Something that I need to have the guts and the courage to speak up and let my voice be heard. All the time I talk about the Gospel of Thomas. In the Gospel of Thomas, it was written out and pushed aside. Bring forth that which is within you, and it will give you life. Don't bring it forth, and it will destroy you. A lot of me died because I didn't bring it forth. A lot of me just sat on a shelf and withered and died because it was there, but I didn't honor that God urging, that God intuition, that God stirring to say, I'm going to let my voice be heard because I was afraid. So I asked you the question, is fear driving your life or faith driving your life? One will shut down. One will die. One will grow and evolve. Again, it's back to choice. But I could have avoided for a very long time story making. Anybody make up stories? You know, I like to say that without information, there will be imagination. And imagination is a very dangerous country to live in. I made up all kinds of stories about why you were the way you were, about why you believe that. And I love John Hyatt. He's a member of this congregation who always asks me the question, how did you come to that conclusion? Now, I can receive that as a challenge, or I can receive it as somebody seeking information to have a greater understanding. Now, the ego doesn't understand that. Can challenge be used to gather understanding? To create understanding? By right of consciousness, it can. And by right of consciousness, it will. But what is the thought behind the challenge? What is the thought behind the question? It will determine if we are abusing our freedoms or we are living in cooperation with the God essence of those freedoms. Yes? So I had a whole lot of stories that were founded on falsehoods because I didn't have the guts to just ask a question and to find the understanding and to find that information. At Unity, we like to say, in fact, we brag about it. Those of you who are new, we brag about it. We come here to get our questions answered. And we do, right? How many people have ever gotten answers here? At least 80%. We're good. We also come here because if you just come here to get your questions answered and not to answer your questions and question your answers, that's why we are here. To question what we believed yesterday. To challenge what I believed as maybe an old paradigm that doesn't work anymore. It got me to where I am today, but I need to be on the precipice of evolution, of becoming. And challenge and question lead to that with information, with understanding, with cleaning house here, cleaning the cobwebs out of my mind. It creates a growing life, a growing spirituality. And that's a privilege that we do not take lightly here at Unity North. Questioning invites dialogue. Questioning invites deeper relationship. Questioning invites learning. And evolution comes from a willingness to ask better questions. What are the questions you're asking of yourself on your spiritual path? Or did you quit asking questions 10 years ago? Or did you quit asking questions when you came into the room? Good enough. A good enough life is not good enough for a growing and evolving spiritual path. If you are in an environment or living as an environment where it is not okay to ask questions and to challenge, run as fast as you can. You know, we are accused so many times of being a cult, and it makes me laugh. It used to really irritate me. You know, the definition of a cult is someplace where you go and they tell you, this is what you think, this is how you think, this is where you will think, and you will never challenge. That's the definition of a cult. We're challenging you to think. To think and to bring your unique understanding of the infinite into the room, even if it appears to be in
in a bit of tension with my belief, or what the Fillmores taught, or what Ernest Holmes thought, or what our board of directors thinks. That makes this environment rich, yes? It makes this environment beautiful, a learning environment, a growing environment. But I ask you to do the same thing. If you're a place, a person, a personality who is not okay with challenge, is not okay with being questioned. I used to be one of those. I used to take everything personally. Why are you attacking me? Poor me, I was a victim. Now, sometimes it was done in attack, but sincere, honest, loving questions caused me to be the person I am today. How did you come to that conclusion? Why is that help me understand why you think that way, why you feel that way. And both of us, when we can sit in the fire of that refinement, become more of who we are meant to be, yes? How many people would say that there's been tension in your life, and at the other side of that tension, because you were willing to sit in the fire, became more of you? Just a show of hands. More than 80% of us. That's why you stay. You know, people that makes me laugh. They say, "Oh no, you go to the church. I don't like organized religion." And I said, "Then you're going to love Unity North." It can feel like chaos sometimes. Questioning can create a little bit of chaos. But as we read in the beginning, chaos, was the void, was just pure possibility. The freedom to dip into that pool of possibility that the song was talking about. We aren't wrong for having an idea. We're only wrong, if there is a wrong, for stuffing that idea and say it is of no value. It is of no worth. We dishonor God, and we dishonor the freedom, and we dishonor the divine appointment that idea and that thought came to you at that moment. It's good tension. I like to call this good tension. Is there such a thing as good tension? Look around the planet. Some of the most beautiful things that I enjoy came out of tension. I love mountains. Tension had to happen for mountains to grow. I look at my life, and for me to become the mountain of a man that I am, it's not the moments of happy joy skipping around. It's the moments where somebody challenged me to be more of myself and to be more grounded in the truth that I was espousing, to make sure it was really the truth of today and not just the truth of yesterday. John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, one of my heroes, said this. Let's read it together. "Never, ever be afraid to make a noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble." I'm encouraging you as a spiritual being to go stir the pot a little bit. But when you stir the pot, boy, you better be willing to have somebody stir the pot inside of your heart, inside your head. "Oh, no, I just want to be the pot stirrer." And there's a lot of people in New Thought that said, "This feels so good, I can challenge everybody, but I don't want them to challenge me." No, we are in a family and an environment where it is a reciprocal relationship. I challenge you, you challenge me, and we are both more. I celebrate that freedom, and I don't want to waste that freedom. 50 years I wasted that freedom. I don't want to waste it anymore. It is a blessing. It is also a responsibility. Good tension encourages self-examination. Freedom demands self-examination. Not just telling everybody else where they need to grow. I always love it when I'll share a concept from this platform, and I see heads going like this. "Oh, I know the people that should be working on that. My brother, I'm going to send this sermon to him." I'm not speaking to your brother. I'm speaking to me. And as I speak to me, I'm speaking to you. And every one of us has areas of growth, right? Isn't any perfect people in the room? You're perfect spiritually. But I don't want to sing the song, "I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change." I want to challenge you to change, because the human world is not matching the spiritual world. The human Richard sometimes doesn't match Richard the Christ, Richard the Buddha. And it's okay to say, hey, you might want to change your thinking. You might want to change that word. You might want to change because you don't feel very Christ-like right now. And then you be willing to receive that back in a great circle of freedom. But what we do is we misuse that freedom and we beat each other up. And let me tell you, for the last 8 years, maybe the last 10 years, maybe the last 20 years, but we're heading into another political cycle right now. Here we go, folks, buckle up. The ride's about to happen again, and I do not want to repeat what's been happening for 10 years. I want to be the church that's leading the way to a different paradigm, to a different ideal. But this is what Horace Mann had to say, because this quote is exactly how we dealt with each other during the last 10 years together. Do not think of knocking out another person's brains because he differs in opinion from you. Recognize it? It would be as rational to knock yourself on the head because you differ from yourself 10 years ago. Anybody think the same way you did 10 years ago? God, I hope not. You're not going to beat yourself up for that. You know, I like to look at evolution as we're all on this ladder. There's this great ladder of existence, and we're all on some rung somewhere, finding our way home. We're all going home together. And we're so worried about beating up the person who we think is on a lower rung. You don't belong. You're wrong. You're stupid. That's not what challenge is, but that's what we've done with challenge. We have abused the freedom of challenging. Challenging says, let me ask you a question, and maybe I can help you up to the next rung. Let me show kindness and understanding. Let me show compassion, and let me challenge you that you might want to think differently. You might want to speak differently. Or we don't agree, but we're friends. What is your aim? What is your purpose for being? Jesus says you cannot serve two masters. Say that with me. You cannot serve two masters. So is being right your master, or is harmony and peace and unity your master? I'll ask that question in a minute. But there's another side to this idea of attack. But what this means, our freedom and our healthy system demands internal challenge. I need to look at my motives before I speak. I need to challenge myself and my intention before I open my mouth or before I take an action in partnership with me offering a counter opinion. I need to make sure I'm right with God. What I'm saying is coming from God, not from an ego. Not from a need to tear you down or to beat your brains up or for you to realize how ignorant you are or how wrong you are. We don't do that in Unity. We seek unity. We seek common ground. We reach down on the ladder and say, let me ask a few questions. Or you reach up as they're asking you the questions and go, let's hang out on a rung together and figure something out. This usually means the ability to answer your own why before you seek to understand somebody else's why. How often do we do that? Why is it so important for me to tear you down? Why is it so important? Am I so threatened? Am I so little that I need to tear you down? Or is my aim and my focus and my master oneness, compassion, and unity? That's the master I want to serve, not being right. Not knocking your brains out of your head. Because you knock your brains, I knock your brains out, you knock my brains out, and we look pretty darn ignorant. And that's what I saw for 10 years. And it invaded our churches. It invaded this church. I participated, and I caught myself, hopefully faster than I would have 20 years ago. Reframe, readjust. What is my master? Why am I here? Now, the other side of abusing that freedom, and it's one that seems so much nicer, but it is a manifestation of the ego just as well, and it's one I implemented for a lot of years in my life. I had a tendency either from my self-protection, protecting my wounds and my fragile little spirit, or the childhood lessons that I just learned well, to fall on the side of complete and total silence. That is an abuse of freedom as well. That's not so easy to swallow. No, I'm the good person. I'm the one making peace. I'm the one that's not making any waves. And then that freedom dies. I'm supposed to be seen and not heard. Yet, God gave me a voice. God gave me questions. God gave me wisdom. God gave me intuition. To not use it is a disservice to the presence of God that planted the seed in your heart. to the nation that requires us as a citizen to let our voice be heard, and to the Unity movement, which is founded and based upon questioning old paradigms. The Fillmores would be dishonored if we did not use our voice to challenge in loving ways. Yes? So I probably did this because what I witnessed as a child is that fight and flight was the only energy operating. Somewhere between fight and flight is a middle road, but all I saw is challenge represented, come on, let's go back behind the barn and have it out, or I just fade away into obscurity and everybody likes me, or I think they like me. They don't know who I am. They can't like me because they don't know who I am. I don't have an opinion. I don't have a heart. I don't have anything to say, so I become insignificant and live under the illusion that I'm growing. No, you're dying, because you're not letting your voice be heard and expressed in love. Neither is effective. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the first time I heard that the way I had lived my life was probably not the way to live. Let's hear what he has to say together. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Oh, dang. It was so much easier to just sit in the corner and be nothing to everybody, to be nothing to myself. No, I can't do it anymore. And that was the moment, that was the quote that got me realizing that I was dying. Or maybe I had never lived. I had absolutely died. Sometimes silence, I talked to Nicole Glasgow, our executive director this week. She reminded me, probably because of my history in this church, sometimes silence is a good thing. My mouth gets me in more trouble. But is it my mouth that gets me in trouble? Or is it the consciousness behind my mouth? Is it the lack of spiritual practice behind the mouth? Is it the lack of challenging my silence or challenging my words? Are they coming from the master of love, or the master to be right, or the master to not make waves? No growth happens either way, because challenge of silence is often just an escape mechanism driven by fear and not faith. And that's not a theory. I lived it. I lived a lot of years afraid that you would not like me, that you would not accept my opinion, that you would not agree with me. Freedom wasted. Ideas wasted. Blessings wasted. Life and God and the Unity movement wasted. A nation wasted. Somewhere between fight and flight is the middle way. Any Buddhist students in the room? The middle way. They told us to look in the middle, and they weren't talking about politics. They were talking about an internal reality. They were not talking about coming to the center aisle politically or religiously. They were talking about finding a way for love and strength to exist in the same field at the same time. Is that possible? It must be possible if we are going to evolve. So challenge must have love and strength, will and determination and peace as our masters. If we're ever going to change the planet, if we're going to change the nation, keep the Unity movement at the forefront of what it can be, I believe that middle path, Rumi says it this way, and Rumi is one of my guides as well. Together, the middle path is the way to wisdom. So there's the path where we beat each other's brains out and there is no wisdom. And then there's the path where I just shut down my brain and there is no wisdom. Maybe the wisdom we need for the nation, for the movement, and for this church is going to be found in a middle way. I believe that our spirituality is the way to do that. I still believe, maybe I'm a Pollyanna, that religion is that middle way. But I ask and question, in my church, is it possible, or are we just going to repeat what we did for the last 10 years? Dr. King asked that question in his letter from the Birmingham jail when he said this, and this is the question I ask us as a movement and as a community today. Is religion, together, is religion too inextricably bound to the status quo to save our nation and the world? I'm asking that question today as we're on the precipice of another great ride. Put your hands up, buckle up, let's go. I have hope that we're not past the point of no return, especially in a community where diversity is one of our core values. What? Unity Church. And we celebrate diversity? Yes. And I said it earlier on in this series, and I'm going to say it again. Some of my colleagues don't understand that I don't come up here and espouse an idea that would alienate half the congregation, because that is not my master. For you to think as I do politically is not my master. But for us to prove something, that we can sit in these seats, Muslims and Christians, Buddhists, Taoists and atheists, Republicans and Democrats, to sit here, that is my master, to create peace, to create harmony, to create compassion, to create understanding, and to be able to ask questions of each other, not to attack or to tear down, but to seek to understand, to seek more information. Because without information, the imagination goes crazy, and that's a dangerous, dangerous place to live. It will be the destruction of the nation, it will be the destruction of the Unity movement, and it will be the destruction of Unity North. And that's not a theory, we lived it. I inherited a church that was living in that kind of energy. I want to celebrate diversity, a both and type of spirituality. Is it possible? Maybe I'm a Pollyanna, but I've seen miracle after miracle after miracle occur with my friends, with my family, that I will not buy that a divided nation and that a divided church is where we're going to end up. We must be united, and that means finding the middle way. Love and strength can coexist. Jesus clearly said it. I am calling this church into a renaissance. Who knows what renaissance means? What does it mean? Rebirth. I am calling myself into a rebirthing experience. I am calling this community into a rebirthing experience, no matter what any other church does in the movement. No matter what any church does within 10 miles of us, no matter what they are doing, we are in a renaissance. We are being led by the movers and the shakers that are taking the power structures of I win, you lose, I'm right, you're wrong, and throwing it away. That's what happened in the Renaissance period in this nation. Rebirth. We reframed a lot of religious and political paradigms, but in order to do that, we had to reframe a lot of individual paradigms. It all starts here. If I can't do it here and be challenged by my neighbor, they're never going to be able to do it out here. The freedom to challenge yourself is the bedrock of the nation and the bedrock of our movement. Instead of viewing the world through the lens of power structures, right and wrong, I win, you lose, people exercise freedom. And I love it. I'm a musician, so I happen to love it. They did it through art and music and poetry. Expressions, the language of the heart. Oh, there was challenge. Go back and read some of those things. I got a chance to study Michelangelo. Oh my gosh, he was poking the Pope, he was challenging the Pope, he was challenging the power structure, but he did it with beautiful works of art that are still celebrated today. But if you look a little deeper, love and challenge, creativity and question all existed in the same painting. That's a painting I want to create in this community. Unity is not new thought. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, they were doing new thought long before we even were walking the face of the planet. By doing so, these people turned the power back to our senses, to our hearts, to our intellect, to reason, to knowledge, and to the pursuit of religious truth. I will not be a Fillmorian teacher. I will build on what the Fillmores gave us as a solid rock, but I want to hear how you're finding God. I want to know how you're making heaven on earth, because that's equally as important as Charles Fillmore. And how Nancy Daniel is challenging the world to make it a better place is equally important to my spirituality as what Jesus did, to do the same thing. We are called to emulate and follow the examples. Buddha and Jesus challenged a lot of people, but they did it in love. And when they couldn't do it in love and read the Bible, they stepped back. I forgot who I was. My motive was off a little bit. I need to regroup, reframe, and step back into the fire to be refined. Yes? That's the rebirth I'm asking for. To be the creative geniuses, to be the creative community and exercising our freedom to challenge by calling for religious, yes, religious, social, political, economic, and more importantly, personal transformation. Call me out. Call me out. I may regret saying this. But I love having a staff and a board of directors that says, I don't know who you're pretending to be, but I know who you are. Ooh, you're challenging me. And I love it because they allow me to do the same for them. That's what's going to save the planet, save the country, save the unity movement, and unite us all, because that is the master that I serve. I'm going to invite the band to come back up. My challenge to each of you today is, let's be the Unity Church. You know, so many people are saying, well, other Unity churches are doing it this way. I want to be the church that's leading the movement, not accepting status quo. And if you want a status quo minister, I'll step down today and let somebody, but I don't think you do. You're here because you understand the power of challenge, the power of question. You're here because you're willing to stand in the fire of something more beautiful. You stand in the fire of evolution and becoming, and challenging each other through it all, through critical thinking. I'm proud to belong to a church that welcomes new ideas, that encourages critical thinking, questioning, dialogue, and the sharing of ideas. Don't waste the freedom. Share it. You can come into this church and you can sit in the balcony or the back row and never open up your mouth. I'm speaking directly to you people. I want to hear your voice. I want to know your heart. I want to feel your mind. I want you to be such a part of this community that I am richer. My spiritual path is richer, and everybody sitting here is richer because you had the guts and the courage to let your voice be spoken in love. Challenge those around you, but always challenge yourself before you challenge others. That's the evolution of humanity I'm calling for. But don't do it because I said so. Don't do anything because the minister said you need to go do this. Do it because you are honoring the presence of God doing business in your skin, in your mind, and in your heart. Because where we sit here today, the Leonardo da Vinci's, the Michelangelos, they're sitting in this room. The Jesuses, the Christs, and the Buddhas are sitting right next to you right now, waiting for you to challenge them and to allow you to challenge back in return. We're going to have a very interesting meditation. I said it's going to be musical. I want the artists to challenge us. But right now, the idea I'm inviting you to take into the meditation is I am divine. Say that with me. I am divine. Every thought that I have is coming from a place of divinity. Together? Every thought I have is coming from a place of divinity. Every feeling I am experiencing is to be felt because the feeling is coming from divinity. Together? The feeling is coming from divinity. You are not an accident. Live your life on purpose as the divine nature of God that chose to express as you. That's how we see you. That's how we know you. That's how we celebrate you in the freedom to challenge. Together we sing, I am divine. Let's bring the lights down. God lives in me as me, and I can view life differently. We all are one, and we are free right now. God lives in you. God lives in me. Take a deep breath. Sing it again with me. I am divine. God lives in me as me, and I can view life differently. We all are one,
God lives in you. God lives in me. And as the lights go down and Christian and Heather make their way up here, know those words at depth. God lives as you. You as an American citizen honor the freedom to challenge and question, because you can travel a million places where you don't have that luxury. Honor the unity path that allows you to grow and to become through question and challenge. And let us honor the mystics, the prophets, the sages that all challenged. Those in the Renaissance period that painted new paradigms. Those that sang them into existence. Let this music be your meditation. You can keep your eyes closed, but let the music be the challenge for you to be all that God has intended you to be. silence. Remain still. Let us enter the silence and allow that music to live inside of us. Placing your hand upon your heart, I invite you to repeat after me. We are the painters. We are the musicians. We are the poets. We are the middle way. We are the Christ. We are the Buddha. We are the ones. We are the Renaissance. This week, I know that you will experience challenge. Be mindful of who you are and who we are. This week, you will find the divine urge to challenge. First, challenge your motive, and then proceed in love. And to know all the we are statements that we just made. Live and breathe, not just in this building, but outside this building. And maybe the world's just a little kinder, a little more gentle, and a little more compassionate, because we wrote a new song. We wrote a new paradigm. And so it is, and so may it always be. Aho and amen.
Thank you, Reverend Richard. Thank you, Christiane and Heather. Beautiful reminder that we truly are blessed in ourselves, in this community. There is so much abundance and prosperity in love, in spirit, and energy. Thank all of you. As we take this time, we are moving into offering time. And our ushers are coming forward with our offering baskets. If you filled out a Let's Connect card and you're wondering, well, how do I get connected? You can put it in the offering baskets as they're coming around, or give it to a welcome team member, or go into the front office. But this is an opportunity that you can put that in the basket, and we will connect with you. We also have our prayer box coming forward, a reminder again of the abundance of this community of love. Prayers in that prayer box are prayed over many, many, many times. You are held in love and light and wholeness. So, remembering we can give in the baskets, we can give online or in the app, but let's bless our offerings in advance by saying our offering blessing together. I am so blessed, I am so prosperous, and it is my great pleasure to share of my blessings and to share of my prosperity. And in the giving, the entire world is blessed. Thank you, God.
And so we join our voices in song over these blessings and these gifts as they make their way around the room. Let us join the Karen Drucker song, I Am So Blessed. Together we sing. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. So before I invite Natalie back up, it would be remiss not to make some thunderous applause for the incredible music that Christiane and Heather made for us. That was amazing, beautiful. Thank you. And keep the applause going as Natalie Goodwin makes her way back up to the stage with more beautiful music.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we can walk it out and move mountains. We can walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I will rise, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. I'll rise up high like the waves. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise you we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains, bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I will rise, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. Hey, all we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other. And we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up high like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We will rise, and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
Beautiful, Natalie. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, band. The gauntlet's been thrown down. Rise up. You are the voice of God. Say that with me. I am the voice of God. Together. I am the hands of God. I am the love of God. And I will no longer shut that down. We have a closing song. Let's just kick this in. I am that I am has sent me to this now moment to be the voice and to be the heart of God. Here I am. Sing it out, Unity. I am that I am has sent me to this now moment. Raise them high. Here I am. questions, a happy week of challenges. Thank you for the light that you are. Go forth and multiply.
Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias.